In a culture shaped by deadlines, pressure, and constant performance, January has become the season when weight loss is framed as a reset. Millions commit with determination, yet within weeks the same pattern returns, not because effort disappears, but because the methods promoted were never built to function with the body over time. The conversation around weight has been narrowed to discipline and restraint, while the biological systems that govern regulation are largely ignored. Hormonal signaling, prolonged stress, disrupted sleep, emotional strain, and repeated dieting gradually alter metabolic function, making progress increasingly difficult. When momentum stalls, responsibility is placed back on the individual, while the impact of quick fixes remains unexamined. This town hall interrupts that pattern. The discussion addresses how popular strategies undermine metabolic stability, why repeated dieting produces resistance instead of results, and what shifts when weight regulation is understood through physiology rather than trends. The emphasis moves away from calorie control and toward restoring the internal conditions that allow the body to respond without opposition. Dr. Austin Lake brings a clinical focus on hormonal balance, metabolic disruption, and stress physiology factors central to stalled progress that most programs fail to address. Kristy Morell, GoldCare's nutrition director, with over 25 years of experience in weight management, contributes perspective shaped by elite athletics, clinical nutrition, and long-term metabolic care. Dr. Simone Gold challenges narratives that blame individuals while protecting broken models, bringing clarity to an industry built on confusion. Together, they expose how modern weight loss messaging transformed regulation into restriction, training the body to resist rather than recover. The consequences of that shift are now undeniable, and this town hall confronts what must be restored for meaningful progress to return. GoldCare, built for you, powered by freedom, trusted by thousands.
Welcome to GoldCare Medical Town Hall, and thank you so much for being here tonight. Joining us is Dr. Austin Lake. Dr. Lake is a dedicated healthcare professional passionate about helping people take control of their health. He brings a clinical focus on hormonal balance, metabolic disruption, and stress physiology, factors central to stalled weight loss that most programs fail to discuss. Also with us is our nutrition director at GoldCare, Kristy Morell. She has over 25 years of experience in weight management. Kristy contributes perspectives shaped by elite athletics, clinical nutrition, and long-term metabolic care. Her work addresses how restriction-based approaches destabilize appetite regulation and metabolism, and what nutritional stability actually requires. Our moderator tonight is Dr. Simone Gold, founder and CEO of GoldCare Health and Wellness. Are you trapped in a cycle of weight loss that never lasts? Progress followed by relapse, effort followed by frustration, hope followed by blame. These patterns are not personal failures. They are a result of systems built on half-truths, quick fixes, and biology-denying advice that works against the body instead of supporting it. Tonight, we'll confront the cycle that keeps weight loss out of reach, quick fixes, metabolic damage, and advice that ignores how the body actually works. We will expose why dieting alone fails, how hormones, stress, sleep, and emotions drive weight gain, and why repeated restriction only deepen the problem. You'll be guided through a root cause framework that restores metabolic health instead of fighting it. Conversations like you hear tonight happen every day inside the GoldCare community. We've learned that the best way to get the most out of your subscription is a free appointment with our nursing team. And while this appointment isn't traditional medical care, it's an opportunity to meet our team and learn how you can get the most out of your subscription. GoldCare offers you the most robust educational platform for health and wellness and access to honest, ethical doctors. Okay, let's get to it. Next up is our moderator, Dr. Simone Gold.
Hello, everybody. And we are going to flip it around a little bit tonight because everyone expects me usually to be talking about the medical truth, the scientific truth of things. But in fact, I believe that both of our guests tonight actually have more knowledge than I do in this area. And it's not often that you hear doctors say that. That's one of the things that's gone wrong in medicine is that we've put doctors on a pedestal and we think they know everything and they should know everything and we should just listen to them automatically. If there's one thing that became very apparent during the COVID years, it was that, first of all, doctors don't know everything. Sometimes when they do know things, they're too biased to reveal other truthful information, or maybe goes against their employer or their own financial interest. So I'm here to say that I don't believe medical doctors are actually the best resource and source of information usually in these scenarios. So that's why I'm very delighted to have Dr. Lake and dietitian Kristy Morell with us tonight. I also want to say that although there are system failures that have massively contributed to the obesity and diabetes and prediabetes problem in America, it would not be accurate to say that there's no responsibility, on the person's side, right? Obviously, we all have to shape our own destiny, but we want to do it intelligently. Those of you who have followed me for years know that I have a passion for policy. And one of the things I just want to throw out there is one of the big pieces of news of what was in the last week when the FDA or was it the HHS? I guess FDA put out the food pyramid, right? And they inverted the food pyramid. And that is just an amazing example of how medicine went along with a political decision and sold out their patients. I've known for at least 30 years, because I had a strong interest in policy, that the food pyramid was wrong, because my interest in policy and law school, I had learned that there were a lot of subsidies for farmers producing grain. Yeah. And most doctors didn't know that. Now, I'm not saying that all doctors have to be policy wonks, but I am saying that doctors should have held the line of what was best for patients. And they should have known this. They should have looked at this. The evidence was there. And even if they didn't see it in the science books, they were seeing it in their patients in front of them. Their patients were getting less and less healthy. So I definitely want to validate people who are a little bit angry at the system, feel a little bit gypped and a little bit duped. And the answer is yes, there were institutional influences that handicapped you from leading your healthiest life. Nonetheless, we live in the real world and we have to take responsibility if we want to be healthy, right? And we want to have good, healthy lives. So on the one hand, it's not all your fault. The solution has to be yours, your solution. And so I like to start with Dr. Lake first. And I mean, this is a question even, I struggle with too, that there's so many people around. Let's focus on women, right? That are high achieving, they're disciplined, they're very accomplished, and they think that they're doing everything right, dieting, exercising, whatever, and they're still not losing weight. What is really going on in that situation?
Well, I'll just start off with the definition, and this is one that I like to reference quite a bit, and the term is adaptive thermogenesis. And so it's your body's protective response where metabolism will slow down in response to a perceived famine or stress. And so, if you think about that, it should make a lot of sense. And again, people may have to kind of hear that a couple of times to apply that to their own lives. But as our intro showed, it was, high achieving, high stress, then you have a high processed diet. And then you have, materials you're wearing that may not be helpful for your hormones either. And then you start spraying fragrances on your body, or breathing different things in the air, or drinking certain water. And like all of a sudden you have a hormonal issue that is not a calorie in, calorie out problem. Right? It's a slowed metabolism by design in order to protect you, because your body perceives that this is necessary. And so I think this is where a lot of people should take, they shouldn't feel so much shame or guilt around this, because there are a lot of things that are not necessarily within your control that are happening to you. Granted, like anything else, I think the Bible is pretty clear on this. In Hosea chapter 4, verse 6, God says that my people are destroyed for lack of knowledge. And so there is this ignorance component that can harm us if we're not aware of it. And so this is where we always want to bring in it's a double-edged sword. It's like, what are the things that we know we need to do that we're not doing? And then what are the things that we're not aware of that we're doing that we need to stop doing? And that's where educational things like this are so important.
For sure. So I sometimes wonder about, let me switch back over to Kristy. Kristy, it's very popular, especially in January, when people start thinking about what can I do now? They kind of feel an urgency, or they feel motivated right then to make some changes. And that's probably something you've seen a lot in your practice. People get very excited, they get very motivated. What is the best approach to that, as opposed to kind of a quick fix?
Well, I think the issue really is that they don't set attainable goals. They have these huge, I'm going to change everything, or I'm going to go on the carnivore diet as soon as January 1 hits, or I'm going to work out every single day, or I'm going to join this gym. And that's the biggest issue that I see, is that they set these unrealistic expectations and they set themselves up for failure from the beginning. So, and, I think there's a lot of social media that I see that my clients are very exposed to, and everyone jumps on the bandwagon of what the latest trend is. And that's not necessarily what they should probably be doing for themselves. So I try to hone them in a little bit on, let's not get overwhelmed by everything that January is promoting. And let's go to the fundamental basics, slow you down, and what works for you in small incremental changes. And when they do that, they will have more success than trying to overhaul their whole nutrition. They'll be like, I'm just going to give up sugar. I'm like, that's not the answer. So I think the important part is, if you're wanting to succeed, that you have to go slow and you have to do it individually, because what works for one person is not working maybe for you.
Have you ever thought about, let's just have a free-flowing conversation about this. I mean, there's a lot of things that have made it more difficult. I'm thinking about the fact that everything is so quick and instant in our culture. When you sit and the concept of even waiting a week or a month is actually really challenging in modern times. Mm-hmm. I mean, I've known you, Kristy, for a long time, and I'm an impatient person, but it's certainly gotten exacerbated by the speed with which everything moves. You get a text, you answer it instantly. That really feeds into the whole concept of a quick diet fix, no? It makes it more difficult. Even in your career, have you seen that it's more difficult to get people
100%. Everybody wants quick fixes. Every single person. That's the problem, is that, and they see people having that. Some people do have that, and they feel like, well, if they're able to do it, why can't I? Mm-hmm. And to your point, that's exactly, what it does to the metabolism, they don't even understand, but they do. They're impatient. They want the progress now. And if they're not getting it, then they jump to another diet, and their metabolism is so, it's just destroyed. And it's very challenging that they want this immediate results.
So Dr. Lake, I want to take this into a direction, maybe, I don't know if, you were expecting this, but the older I get and the longer I'm on this path, I try to seek out more eternal truth and eternal wisdom, because it's very challenging in the era that you're living to see eternal truth. But this fact that we are living in such hyper fast times, I think you can turn to the Bible or eternal sources to teach us as humans to kind of slow down. What I mean by slowing down is slowing down your expectations, because I actually think a lot of people would succeed if they went a little slower, but it's very difficult, I think, in the 21st century to go slower. So feel free to talk about that.
Yeah, and just to kind of hit on what Kristy was saying with expectations, I think it plays into what you're saying as well. It's if you are expecting, to lose 10 pounds in the first month, or to, be 100% compliant with the diet, or go to the gym 4 times a week when you haven't done so in the past, you're going to immediately set yourself up for failure, right? But I think if you have an expectation of a timeline, and this is where I think it is helpful to work with somebody that is knowledgeable in these areas to kind of give you an expectation and set you on the right path. Because at least what I always think about with my clients is, I don't want them going to the gym day 1 of January 1st if they haven't been doing that for the last few months. I want them focusing on their sleep, their hydration, deep breathing, resetting their nervous system, focusing on quality foods versus, protein shakes, and actually eating and cooking and planning your meals out. Because once they do that, they start getting these little wins here and there. It's like, hey, I said no to that food, and that's a little win, but my goal is not to be perfect with it. My goal is to be better with it. And so how can I set a new expectation? But then once you start to get healthier, I think that's when you have the ability to get fitter, right? You can go to the gym, you can start to push yourself a little harder. You can start to even maybe restrict calories here and there, or fast here and there occasionally, but not right away. People go into the stuff fasting for a week when they haven't fasted at all leading up to this. And so they're going to fail, guaranteed, because their blood sugar is not stable. They're not fat adapted. They're not used to burning fat as an energy source. They're used to grazing on food all day long. And so a lot of this, you have to kind of prepare well and have clear expectations and understand what a victory looks like. Because if you're not sure, if you think a victory is only in the scale and not looking at how your body composition is changing, maybe your clothes are fitting a little bit better, maybe you're less swollen, less puffy, you're waking up with a little bit more energy, You don't have that mid-afternoon crash like you used to. You're able to say no to sweets a little bit more often. Like those are all wins. Like those are all indicators that your metabolism is improving and you're on the right path. But if you're only looking at the scale, you're going to be really disappointed, because especially if you're working out, you're likely going to gain some muscle mass, and like that scale could go up, and it may not be a bad thing. And so it just really matters like who you're working with, what your expectations are. And then getting back to what you're saying with kind of slowing things down, I always tell people, stop. Like 4 months out is still not long-term enough. Like it needs to be like the short-term victories we just kind of talked about, but long-term, I don't want you to be healthy for a wedding. Like I want you to be healthy for your grandkids. Like I want you to be healthy for your great grandkids. And I want you to start thinking in those terms, because I think eternally, biblically, that's the important part about it. It's not these little short, like I'm going to lose 10 pounds, then yo-yo and gain it right back again, and then feel a bunch of shame. It's that I want to start fixing my metabolic health little by little. And then, maybe a year from now, like 12 months, like I am starting to see that the scale is starting to reflect my work, and I'm okay with that. And that's a good thing. But if you're expecting it to change within a couple of weeks, you're going to be very disappointed.
So that's important, to take some small victories along the way, because they do become motivating. Kristy, what would you recommend is maybe a first step that someone should do? And I realize that this is, a very broad question, but in terms of maybe slowing down, not having unrealistic expectations, getting early wins, things that people can then hold on to for the long term. What is?
I mean, there's several things. I think the first thing that I always talk to clients about is that everybody can do is, well, there's several things. One thing is planning ahead. Like I'll tell my clients, before you go to bed at night, just take a notebook, a piece of paper, and just write down, what does your life look like just tomorrow? Just take tomorrow one day at a time. Do you have a doctor's appointment? Do you have to get your car taken in? Because what ends up happening is if you have a plan and you kind of know what you're going to be eating for breakfast, okay, you know what, I have this appointment, so gosh, I can't eat until 2. Well, now look, there's 5 hours. Most likely you're going to get starving. You're going to be out and about. There's a lot of temptation there. So what if you packed something with you? So if someone just did one day at a time, made a plan, I feel like that would set them up for success. And they would begin to see, they would feel really good about like, wow, I actually brought something with me so that I didn't have to go to a fast food place or come home starving. And everybody that works with me knows, I teach everybody this hunger scale of like, you have to stay out of the 1, 2, 3 and the 8, 9, 10, and really be in the sweet spot in the middle. And so if you're starving, you're going to pick the wrong thing. You're going to eat really fast, and you're going to definitely get too full. So I think planning your day one day at a time is great. And I also think another thing that's an issue that I'm seeing across the board is people are snacking all day. Mm-hmm. They're eating breakfast and they're snacking 2 hours later. So they're constantly snacking. So I tell them, for now, let's just try to get 3-hour gaps between. Some people need 4, some people, a little bit longer, just depends. But if I'm working with somebody who's constantly eating, that's a huge problem. They're not physically hungry. They're either just wanting to eat because they're at home and they're bored or stressed, or they're eating the wrong thing prior to that, which is causing blood sugar crash. And so they're wanting, something to eat then. So I would say planning a day ahead and then just watch their snacking would be what I would recommend.
It's funny, like listening to all this, I just, again, we all see this through our own lens. I'm looking at this as the lens of a doctor. And of course, I've got 2 kids and a mom. And I remember when it dawned on me when, my kids were younger and playing soccer and all those leagues, and the moms had to alternate who was going to make snack for the teams. Yeah. And I just remember, I think my second year into this, I'm like, why? I don't get it. Like, why do the kids need to eat like every 10 seconds? Like it actually didn't make sense, right? It doesn't actually make sense. So then the more and more you look at it, and I want to just keep reminding people of that, because just because it's common and just because it's ubiquitous and all around us, it doesn't actually mean that it's eternally true. And the more we've looked at this over the last few decades, I'd say, we're discovering that eating less often is in fact really, really helpful, really helpful. And then shock, you go back to the Bible. I think we talked about this 2 town halls ago. You go back to the Bible, and in fact, there's fasting all over the Bible, which is kind of interesting, right? They don't really say it so much for physical health. They're saying for spiritual and mental health, but first of all, they're connected. But It's just kind of, it's interesting, isn't it? So there's frequent, constant eating. And as a doctor, I want to share my sorrow with the people listening, because we doctors were completely guilty of telling people to eat all the time. I mean, it was just a thing we did, oh, your blood sugar goes low. And it's the craziest thing, you guys probably know this, but the audience probably doesn't. The incidence of true hypoglycemia, where your sugar goes below normal, is it's very close to zero in non-diabetics. It really almost doesn't exist. It's essentially medication side effect. I guess you wanted to say something about Dr. Lake?
No, I've seen that a lot too. I would just nod along with you. Yeah.
It's really not, it's not true. Like we're told, I mean, okay, so I'm just saying.
You always hear the hangry term. You hear a lot of the hangry kind of thing. I'm like, that's more of like a cortisol issue in my opinion,
Yeah, but you get a little bit, I understand you get like, I myself, I guess I get touched like that, but that it is not hypoglycemia. Like there's not a medical reason you have to actually put food in your mouth. And I'm just saying that we doctors have put a veil of normalcy over eating constantly and telling people, oh, you have to avoid your sugar going low or hypoglycemia. And we make it sound like it's medically necessary. And at GoldCare, honestly, we try to tell you the truth as we know it, as it becomes revealed year after year with, accurate science. So we'll just leave there for a moment. Back to Drew, and then we'll keep picking it up.
Thanks, Dr. Gold. You're so right. Just everything you guys just touched on. Kristy talking about, the difficulties we face in looking at social media and wanting to see instant results or wanting to look like someone that we see online. Dr. Lake, the points you made about the longevity of your plan, being healthy for your kids and your grandkids and your grandkids. That's just such great a message to lean on. Don't forget to please retweet this live stream. We have many thousands of people watching it right now, but we want more eyes on this. And you can also click the link in the title of the webinar so you can learn a little bit more about GoldCare. Back to you, Dr. Gold.
Dr. Lake, you started with this at the beginning, and I'd love to hear a little bit more about it, just kind of how repeated dieting slows the metabolism. I mean, you really kind of, I just think that's a subject people are super interested in.
Yeah, so I think the perspective I will give on this is, because I think people, when they start the new year, they'll do like, the Whole30 diet, or they'll do the carnivore diet or something extreme. And granted, I think that whenever you take out inflammatory foods, like I have no problem with that. Like I think that's always going to be a good thing as long as you have the right mentality going into it and understanding that you're not going to be perfect. I have a bit of like a diagnostic process I walk my clients through, to like an elimination style diet, just to kind of get a configuration on what triggers their specific inflammatory response food wise. But in general, talking to the general audience, when you start to restrict calories, that's what I want to kind of talk about, is like when you start to have that calorie restriction, especially in terms of fat and protein. Most people don't have too much of a problem with their carb intake. We get plenty of these carbs. A lot of them are simple carbohydrates. They burn off very quickly. They're not very nutrient dense. They don't have much phytonutrients, not much fiber, things like that. And so they're not going to be as stabilizing to your blood sugar as a complex carb would be, like a sweet potato, which is one of my favorite vegetables. But the whole idea here is that if people are going into the new year and they're cutting these things out, and maybe they're substituting like a protein shake, and they're not really getting much nutrients in, and now they're experiencing a physiological stressor, right? Because having deficiencies or having lack of nutrient dense foods is going to be a problem by itself. That's going to send a signal like to your body that you're experiencing a famine, right? Like that's a stressor, and that will again slow down your metabolism, primarily through your thyroid. You start to see a conversion issue between T4 and T3 within your thyroid hormones, and so you start to see that master gland have issues, and all of a sudden you can have gastric motility slow down, you can have more weight gain, you can have more thinning of hair on your head, you can have more weight storage, all these different kind of problems. And the big issue there for me is, are you getting enough nutrients in, right? And so if whatever you're doing, you got to make sure you're getting enough nutrient dense foods in. And a lot of women that I talk to, they go on these diets, they wake up, they drink a little bit of coffee, they put a little bit of creamer in it. They say they're still fasting, but they're technically breaking their fast at that moment in time with a substance that is going to spike your blood sugar, spike your cortisol, and make you more ravenous a couple hours later, right? And you're going to be wanting a quick source of energy via carbohydrates to feel like your blood sugar's not going hypoglycemic, right? When the reality is, if they woke up, had fat and protein primarily with some complex carbs, and they had a nutritious breakfast, they actually ate, in my opinion, I like ground beef and sweet potatoes and avocado and some fruit. Like that's, in my opinion, people call that lunch or dinner, and I call that a good breakfast. And so I think if people started eating things like that or something close to that, you know, you'll wake up if you wake up and have food within an hour, hour and a half, 2 hours maybe, that's going to serve you pretty well for a few hours after that, right? Like you're going to wake up feeling pretty energized, blood sugar's going to be pretty stable. You'll make it to lunch, and again, I'm not sure what Kristy's take is on this, but my take is lunch should be your biggest meal of the day if you can do it. I don't like the idea of a salad for lunch. I think it's going to set you up for failure at the end of the day when you need to kind of be stabilizing your blood sugar, calming down your cortisol, not having a bunch of calories come in at the wrong time of day, and again, making insulin spike. And so if you have a good breakfast, a good lunch, getting about 80% of your calories before 2 o'clock, I think that really helps stabilize hormones, especially for women, because, you know, cholesterol is what makes hormones. Like that's the building block of all your hormones. And when you have a pregnenolone steal, which for those who don't know what that is, you have cholesterol, pregnenolone, and then usually make progesterone, cortisol, and you kind of have this cascade of hormones from downstream from there. But if you don't have cholesterol and you're lacking omega-3 fatty acids, you're not going to make pregnenolone very much. And then if you do, and you're promoting cortisol, you're going to take those hormones and prioritize cortisol and not progesterone, estrogen, testosterone, all those other sex hormones that are very thriving type hormones that help you to lose weight, maintain your weight, have good energy production, have good hormonal regulation, menstrual cycles, all those things. So your food, your nutrition is so important. And if you're just starving yourself of nutrition, you're inducing adaptive thermogenesis by slowing down your metabolism.
You know, that was great. So Kristy, I was seeing you nod, and I know that you guys have never really talked or.
I don't know if Kristy agrees, but I'm interested.
I totally agree, by the way.
I was watching her nod. I was watching her nod her head, and I was watching her nod her head. So Kristy, why don't you just take that and run with it, because it's so good, I think, for the audience here. These are two professionals who have actually never spoken on this. It's certainly not sure you guys have ever spoken. What say you?
Well, I mean, I couldn't agree more. I mean, one of the things that I tell my clients as well is complex carbohydrates for breakfast and lunch, and then dinner, really focusing on protein and vegetables. And a lot of people who do the other way around, who have the coffee with creamer, and then it fills them up, and then they just have a light salad. Dinner comes, and they'll like white knuckle it, right? They're like, oh gosh, like, you know, my hunger is now coming up and I know I'm not supposed to eat that much. Then they have a big dinner, and guess what happens? They're staying up late, and now they're snacking for like 2 hours before they go to bed. Yeah. So the most important thing, yes, I couldn't not agree more. Like, honestly, you don't have to have breakfast type foods. It could be some grass-fed beef and sweet potatoes and, you know, whatever. It's just, it's nourishment. It is what is the key component. It's got to be filling and nourishing and feels like I have energy now. I can go do stuff. It shouldn't be like I'm going to have another third cup of coffee because I'm not supposed to eat. So there's just all these, you know, misunderstanding about that. And then lunch, exactly. I would rather them have something, again, that's nourishing. Now, if they want a salad, there needs to be enough in a salad. It can't just be a dry salad with squeezed lemon over it. So again, like that's really, really important to have balanced nutrients, carbohydrates, fats, good source of protein. And then if the lunch and dinner is a very, you know, it's maybe 5-6 hours apart, depending on their day, then having a small snack of maybe some walnuts and, you know, maybe a cutie or a kiwi or something like that, very small. And then a light dinner, and then really not having anything to eat after that. Mm-hmm. So 3 hours before bed, ideally stopping, not having anything. And so I'll tell my clients, you know, go brush your teeth, wash your face, get ready. Like, kitchen is closed. And get to bed early, because the problem is that they stay up watching TV, then hunger kind of creeps in. And then once they start down, like, well, I'll just have a little bit of popcorn or a little bit of something, it opens up their hunger, and then they end up just having a lot more.
Yeah.
So, okay. Yeah. So I'll say a little doctor stuff, and then have a very fun question for each of you. So first of all, speaking, you know, purely as a physician now, so we've learned a lot that this condition called metabolic syndrome, which is essentially being, you know, a bit overweight, especially around the middle, around the midsection, really is a grave threat to your health. It's essentially, it's linked or leads or is essentially type 2 diabetes, right? So what we're talking about is incredibly important to your health. There's probably no disease that is as destructive and as widespread in America as diabetes. The toll it takes on the American nation and on you as an individual, if this is where you're at, is just, it's overwhelming. I can tell you as an ER physician, I never had a day in my career that I didn't have lots of diabetic patients in the ER, and the range of problems, things people don't think about, right? Vascular disease, stroke, heart attacks, they lose you lose your limbs. I mean, it's unbelievable what diabetes does, but essentially it's too much sugar, which turns into too much fat on your body, and it's stressing your body with insulin and all that. And much of this can be reversed. Almost all of this, the type 2 diabetes, can be reversed with better eating habits. Mm-hmm. So the reason I kind of led with that is to just share with you, as a doctor, there's probably nothing more important that you can do for yourself than not go down the path of metabolic syndrome. So clearly my 2 guests today do not suffer from that, because they've been wide awake to this for many years. So I'm going to ask you a very fun question. We'll start with you, Dr. Lake. Will you tell the audience what you ate today? What was your breakfast, lunch, dinner? And then back to you, Kristy, the same question.
Yeah. Today I had for breakfast was steak and eggs, and that was it. And then I didn't eat again until about noon. So I ate at 8:30, ate at noon. And I did have like some tacos today, some steak, some like local tacos, that pretty hearty tacos with steak again. And then I haven't had any dinner yet. So I don't really have much of an appetite, but I probably will. I don't know if I'm going to be able to eat because I have another meeting after this. So it may just be a fasting day. So that's what I've had so far today.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Kristy?
Very good. Let's see. I always start with my hot lemon water. People who know me know that is that's a always. So half of a lemon squeeze, fresh squeezed lemon with warm water, and then a cup of clean coffee. That's another thing that's very important to me, because not all coffee is made equal. And then I actually did a workout, and then came back and had 3 eggs, half of an avocado, sourdough toast, organic homemade sourdough toast. And that was it. And then lunch, I had a quinoa bowl with some quinoa and some lentils and spinach, and the other half of the avocado. And I think I had olive oil dressing with that. And dinner, I just had sauteed spinach, and I had a piece of salmon. And that's it.
I
also had coffee today. I forgot that.
I think it's actually very helpful for people to hear this, like to hear directly like what you eat. So the American diet is very, very different than what you just outlined, right? We were told, as young kids, I think I'm sure I'm the oldest of the 3 of you, but I grew up knowing, I think, it's funny. It actually changed from my childhood to my young adulthood. When I was young, it was eggs and bacon, but in my teenage years and 20s, it really became cereal. That was kind of right when the change was happening. It was, I guess, 80s, early 80s, maybe. It became cereal, which, by the way, I still love cereal, and I for the most part, don't buy it because it's like
Lovebird cereal is pretty good. If you guys haven't had Lovebird, they make some good cereal.
Yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Lovebird cereal.
Of course, you would know, Kristy. You actually, it's so funny. Yeah. If again, looking at this, adding the amount of sugar that's added to these products is utterly shocking. And everybody who knows me knows that I'm very much against government regulation, really across the board in anything. So I can't advocate for government regulation, but man, if there's a drug that should be regulated, it's sugar.
Yeah.
It's 100%.
Well, I think it is also, if you don't mind me interjecting here, I think it's important for people to hear, because, even just when I was in my 20s, I was still in the health profession away. I was an athlete, played in college, and was doing all the things I thought were right. So my diet used to look like, and I had chronic pain, chronic fatigue, mind you. So this is like, it'll paint a picture as to why. But, I would drink like a Gatorade, and I would have like a protein bar, which is basically a candy bar. And then, I would have like a can of Hormel chili, and cereal or whatever else I could get bumming off my friends from their, lunch card. And like, that was what I ate for most of my young adult life until I met my wife, and she started like cooking real food. And I was like, man, like this is way better, but it's just like, I started having I had stomach ulcers. I had chronic pain. I felt tired all the time. And I was like 22 years old, and I couldn't figure it out, and nobody could figure it out for me. And I would go to these different doctors, and I get a bunch of ibuprofen prescribed for my pain that I had, which was really referral pain from my stomach ulcer to my back. And like, nobody could figure this stuff out. And it was just like, it was my diet was like 90% of it, like it was just terrible diet. So it took me a while to pull my head out of the sand and start to realize what real food can do for you and what unhealthy food can do for you. Like there's a stark contrast there. And I think for some of us, you start telling yourself this lie that like, oh, it's just genetics. It's just like just the cross I have to bear. It's just like, I just have to go through this. It's just part of being in this world. And I just would really push back against that. Like I spent a long time feeling terrible, and it took a while for me to start getting out of that state. But once I kind of committed myself to, I'm not going to give up on the food stuff. I'm going to commit to eating good food and supplement my deficiencies and start to figure out some other things that are going on. Like it wasn't too long before I started to heal and I started seeing true progress. And like now I look back on that and I feel like a different person, but like it is possible, but it's not going to happen overnight. Like you really have to have the right perspective again and the right expectations going into it. Because if you don't, you're not going to know when or how far to go before you should give up on it. Because like you may be on the right track, you maybe haven't spent enough time on that track to see the full result yet.
That is certainly the best endorsement of really changing your life around. I'm very guilty of eating prepared foods. And Kristy, hats to you because you're a working woman and you still prepare meals essentially from scratch most of the time, which is a challenge, I think, for a lot of people. What do you recommend though for like the busy, it's usually the busy working woman who maybe doesn't have time or interest in, what are some suggestions for good, healthy, nutritious, nutrient-dense meals?
There are so many out there. I mean, the truth is, and it doesn't take long. That's probably one of the biggest issues when I see clients that they say, I don't have the time. And, I quickly point out there's so many ways to do it. It should not feel overwhelming. Meal planning and prepping is not difficult. It doesn't need to look beautiful. It doesn't need to be, Instagram worthy meals. It just needs to have the core things that are going to fuel you and your family. And so I use a lot of crock pot meals. There's prepping that you can do on Sunday night that are just easy. I have great, easy, quick marinades that I teach people to do that are just a few simple ingredients. You don't need to get fancy. You don't have to have 1,000 different ingredients to do it. But once you get on a path like that and you just do a few things, they're like, oh my gosh, this was something I was, just didn't want to do because I just thought it was going to take so much time. And it's so much better and they feel better and they feel good that they're feeding their family those foods. So there's a way they just Dr. Lake said that they need to work with a professional to get the support so that they know that there's a path forward for them that doesn't have to be complicated. But in order to take care of themselves, they have to, I really believe in meal prepping, especially if it's a working family and both parents are working, it's almost impossible if you don't.
Yeah. That is so. Before we jump back to Drew for a moment, I do have to put a pitch out there for GoldCare. That is one of the things that you teach at GoldCare is how to do this. How to meal prep. You've taught me that a lot over the years. Literally how to go to the grocery market. Pick out the right foods, prep it ahead of time. You're right. It actually doesn't take that long. I actually don't think it's so much a time thing because I would say that a lot also. I don't have the time. It's not really that. I really think we've become trained and acculturated to thinking, 20 minutes is really too long. It really isn't too long. It takes at least that long, if not longer, to go pick up a meal, right? It's more as though we've sort of trained ourselves that, we don't have to do this. It's like, we don't have to do the self-care. So you actually teach a lot of classes at GoldCare about literally the basics about, how to do this more properly. So 1 second, we'll jump right back. Back to you, Drew, for just a moment.
Thanks, Dr. Gold. That's absolutely right. I was thinking about that as we were talking, and that it's so awesome that we have Kristy here on this town hall because I think I just looked over 5,000 people watching right now, but you can come to GoldCare and you can book an appointment with Kristy and many other nutrition, dietitian type, health and wellness type providers that we have on the platform. The other neat thing is that we have a live community where all of our GoldCare members are there chatting and talking with each other, sharing ideas. You don't have to do this alone. We have a great community, and there are many great communities out there that you can do this with, and GoldCare is ready for you. Back to you, Dr. Gold.
Dr. Lake, I got very intrigued by what you said that, you said that in your early 20s, you were feeling, tired and aches and pains, and this became motivating for you. I think so many people not even putting together that their ordinary not feeling their best energetic self could be linked to food. I think it's kind of unusual that you put it together and that you stuck to it. I don't think that's so common. I think we've become very used to just, this is life. I don't feel that good. I don't feel that energetic.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think when you exhaust one option, at least for me, I was like, I'm not going to give up. Like I'm still a young person. Like I have a lot of life, hopefully, Lord willing, in front of me. So it was like I felt like I exhausted one option, and it was like, well, what's this other, holistic world and this woo-woo thing? And it was, even when I was getting my doctorate, it's still like this allopathic field, and I was trained to think that food had very little to do with this stuff. And, like you got to be careful of alternative holistic people because they're not science backed, and, they're you just can't trust them. It's quackery, And so I really had to be pretty desperate in order to go down this alternative path. And I think the first part of it was accidental, to be honest. I think because my wife just started feeding me better, I was like, I'm feeling a little better, like maybe there's something going on here. And I think from there, once I started to kind of enhance my education and my own understanding of how it worked and how it could create issues like leaky gut or enhanced intestinal permeability, and how it can, create issues with H. pylori and cause stomach ulcers, or how you can start having, bacterial imbalance in your gut, and how that's a huge component of your immune system, about 70% of your immune system, and how it can affect serotonin, which can affect melatonin, which can affect your sleep. And then you're not sleeping as deeply, and then you're waking up tired, and then you're relying on caffeine, and then you're just stimulating your way through the day. And then you have more disruption throughout your adrenal glands and your thyroid. And next thing you know, you have like a condition that came out of nowhere, when the reality is you've been preparing yourself for that condition and putting yourself in that position to experience pathology. But I think for some people, they just have to walk the path fully in the conventional medical world enough to realize, like, hey, this has taken me far in some categories. Like, this has been life-saving in this category, hasn't taken me too far in this category. Like, I haven't really gotten answers here. And if you've gotten to that point, don't give up and think that there's nothing else, because there are other options to kind of pursue, and other people to talk to. And some people are specialized in different areas of health, right? Like I wouldn't be the person to do surgery on anyone. Like, you would definitely die if I got a scalpel out. Like in my cadaver lab, I was not very good at cutting up cadavers. Like, it was not very good. But some people are very skilled at meal planning and like looking at your life and understanding, how can we make this work for you in your busyness? And like, how can we set you up for success? And then other people are really good at, doing like mold and parasite and heavy metals detox. Like, those play a role in your metabolism and your inflammation and your overall health. And like, that's considered very woo-woo. But in my world, that's all we do. And I know it works because I've done it a few thousand times. And so I know that helps people get to a certain point. But I think you just have to understand that you need to walk a line completely, exhaust every option in that until you're convinced that that's as far as you're going to go, and then start looking alternative directions. But don't lose hope and give up. Like, that's the one thing you can't do.
Really great. So Kristy, how do we work with patients? One of the things that Dr. Lake just said, it's true. Like, maybe you don't give them a scalpel, but something else. And we really all are good at different things. And I know that that's something that you take very seriously, and you've trained people at GoldCare to also work with people very seriously, to shore up areas where maybe people need help or are a little bit weakened. And how do you approach it? And then how do you approach it here at GoldCare?
Well, I think the first thing is, it's not just food. I mean, it's really kind of everything. I mean, that's it. You kind of have to, exactly what you were saying, just, you can't just look at one area and be like, well, I've done that, I've tried that, it doesn't work, because there's so many different ways. And I think that, one thing that I've seen a lot happen is people are eating so quickly. So how I teach when I work with GoldCare, members is really like first taking a look at what your current life is like. What are you doing currently? And when I see that people are barely chewing their food, I mean, if I ask them, like, does a meal usually take 15 minutes? And they're like, no, like 5 minutes, 6 minutes. So a lot of people are chewing their food whole, honestly. They're eating very, very fast. That is disrupting their gut microbiome. They're having a lot of gas and bloating. And so it's like slowing down, being present. I mean, I don't know if you remember Kristy's rules, but I have these very specific rules that I teach everybody that comes to me, which is, no standing and eating, no eating out of boxes, bags, containers, or jars, sit at a table undistracted, completely undistracted and present. Use food as a way to unplug in your day for 15 minutes. Don't be on your phone and your computer at the same time. So really learn to like have, a few bites of food, set your fork down, sit back in your chair, like enjoy, savor it. Everybody is in a rush to get to the next thing.
Yeah.
And so there's just fundamental habits that I really try to teach people that they're not even aware of, that is causing a lot of stress in their body and distension and pain and gas. And they're eating things that they feel like, well, I always feel tired, or I always have stomach problems. And it's like, well, that's not normal. Your quality of life should be everything to you. So when you start to talk to them about what's happening, I begin to see a clear picture of it's all the things that we've been talking about here, but also not planning ahead, eating very fast, eating the wrong things. So it's, there's stuff to unpack for sure. And it's so individual. But there are key things that I think if anybody even listening on this call right now would just do a few things, it would make a significant difference, and just start somewhere. And exactly, don't give up hope. If you feel like you've hit a roadblock, then maybe you talk to another professional, which is what I love about GoldCare, obviously, is because the wealth of knowledge that our wellness team has is unbelievable. I've told Dr. Gold this many times. It's like she has a gift of bringing the most amazing people together. And when you work with a team where it's like, hey, I'm not getting very far with this person with this, I can contact another wellness provider that has an expertise in something that I don't. And maybe it is doing a parasite cleanse or something like that, right? So I don't know if that answered your question fully, but yeah, that's.
And even though this is it is January, so I think it's more than just food, like you said, but we have to talk for 2 minutes. There's two things I want to talk about. Very obvious things. One is movement and moving, physical movement. Right. And then the other is, I'm just kind of curious, because I'm always fascinated with this, is sugar. We could do the sugar first because it's food, and then we'll switch over to movement and exercise. But I'm telling you that sugar, to me, sugar feels addictive. It feels like kind of psychologically addictive. It does feel to some extent physically addictive. If I go without sugar, extra sugar, I should say, there's sugar in everything. But if I go without extra sugar for about 3 days, it kind of calms down a lot. Many years ago, I didn't give up salt, but I'm just not attracted to salt. I don't really salt my food. It's never been a problem. But I learned in medical school and with patients that if you quit salt for about 3 days, 4 days, 5 days, really your taste buds, your attraction to salt actually goes down quite a bit. So I actually think the same is true of sugar. And I'm curious, Kristy and Dr. Lake, what you have to say about that.
Go ahead, Kristy.
Well, yes. So when it comes to sugar, I mean, first of all, again, meeting them where they're at, that's number one. That's always where the first place I start. It's like, how much sugar are they currently having? Do they need something sweet after every single time that they eat something? Do they need, like after lunch, are they craving something, sugary? So it just depends. I mean, I like natural sugars. Like I do like dates, for example, but not everybody, that might not be for everyone. So I start somewhere where I don't take it out completely. If somebody is a sugar addict, like truly, then we find ways to kind of work, help them to, again, maybe it's having one date with a little bit of almond butter in it and some coarse sea salt. I've had people who do that. That like closes it for them. They're like, okay, if I can have this one thing, then I'm not like itching for sugar. Other people might have to take out, processed sugar altogether. Like, don't buy it. That's part of what I tell them to do.
Absolutely.
Even dark chocolate bars, even the best high quality coconut sugar, all the things, they might not just be able to have it because that little square turns into 2, turns into 3, and then by the end of the day, they're having a full bar. So they have to be real with themselves. I mean, that's the truth. I mean, and again, weight loss is not just aesthetic, like you were saying. I mean, this is like a real medical problem. So I talk to them a lot about things that you kind of have to just be okay giving up, and just not putting that chocolate bar in your, grocery cart when you're, but I think, I'm not anti-sugar per se. It just depends on the person. Like I have many clients successfully can have a little bit of chocolate and are okay. But if they have a true like issue where one turns into a lot, then we need to talk and we need to find alternatives, and maybe we need to start slow Maybe it is fruit.
Right.
Say.
Lake?
Yeah, and I mean, yeah, there's a dopamine component that you guys are hitting on here. It causes a rapid increase in a desire for dopamine. And so if people are constantly in this state, just like with social media, all these things we're discussing, sugar is one of the first, major dopamine hits I think our society's experience, is that we rely on it so heavily. And then you have the processed component of sugar that makes it even more problemsome. So the example I always like to give is, imagine you sit down, you have a glass of orange juice, you can pound it, no problem. And it's going to spike your blood sugar. And sure, it may be like a natural sugar from the juice, from the oranges. But imagine you sat down and you ate 5 oranges, which is what it would probably take to get enough juice out for a glass of juice. It's like, the reason you can't eat 5 oranges and you get satiated after eating 1 orange is the fiber. Like, there's other components to it that stabilize your hunger and your cues so that you don't want to keep eating more and more. And I always say a true addiction, at least in my opinion, is that when I drink water with minerals, when I'm thirsty, as soon as I get enough, I'm good. As soon as I eat a steak and I'm hungry, I'm full, like, I'm good. I don't want more steak. I can eat chips or sugar or anything like that, and I can just keep going and going and going, because it's a food that's designed to make you eat more of it. And that's where you can then start to, at least in my opinion, analyze, okay, I'm eating fruit versus I'm eating a candy bar, or I'm eating whatever candy this is or whatever sugar it is. Like, you're not going to be able to keep eating fruit at a certain point. Granted, you can go overboard, like the lady I was talking to today. She ate 16 apricots a day to help her get off of processed sugar. And she ate 20 of these cacao bars that she was making to help her get off this processed sugar. And eventually she started working her way down to where she could tolerate a regular diet. So that would be the one thing. And then the other thing is just that anyone that has sugar imbalances or insulin instability, they have a mitochondrial dysfunction, right? Like, they don't transfer energy well. Like, they take energy in, they store it as fat, they don't get it to their cells for mitochondrial function. And that's where you start to feel maybe wired and tired. You have no energy, but yet you're still gaining weight, and you're maybe not eating very much. And this gets all back to some metabolic issue we're discussing. It's a mitochondrial dysfunction. So, like, some people, it is that. Other people, it is a dopamine surge. Other people, it's a gut bacterial imbalance. That bacteria is getting you to crave sugar. Other people, it can be high stress and high cortisol that needs a quick source of energy. So, like, there's different things you have to think about. And again, this is where working with somebody like Kristy or myself or anyone probably in your program, like, is really going to be helpful to identify, like, what is it for you? Like, is it a combination of things, or is it just one thing? If it's one thing, like, we could fix that. If it's multiple things, we got to kind of come at it from multiple angles.
I love it. That was great. And just a quick 2 words. I'm sure both of you do incorporate exercise into your just day, and it's another thing. Like American life is just, it's you actually have to put it into your life. I was just remarking, like, this is unusual for humans, right? Like, we have to actually put it into our lives, whereas probably throughout all of human history, just being physically active was just part of being human. Right. So Kristy, I know that exercise is a big part of your life. I think you should talk about that for a moment. Like, how do you feel like that plays into your health and also stabilizing your weight?
I mean, it's everything. I mean, first of all, I think, because I was a sports dietitian at USC for so long, I understand muscle from a component that, as we age, we lose it. And one of the things that, well, again, exercise is start where you are. Like, if you're not doing anything, can you go for a 20-minute walk? Like, what can you do? That's the question you have to ask yourself. But then, I look at my mom who's 85 and she can run circles around me. Why? Because she lifts weights 4 or 5 times a week. And there's something about that. If she falls, she's protected. Like, we have got to start lifting weights, and not just like 2 to 5 pound weights as women. Specifically talking, men and women, obviously, but the women that come to see me, they're just not lifting, and we need to have more muscle. When after the age of 30, we lose about a pound of muscle a year. So just think about that. If we're not putting that back and our bodies are more fat than muscle, we're not burning hardly anything. So I'm really big on starting where you're at, getting some walk-ins, and then either any kind of resistance training, and then starting to build back and work with a trainer, ideally, so you don't get hurt, and start actually lifting weights. And you're going to feel so good. Your body composition is going to change. You're going to burn more calories while you're sitting and sleeping, standing. You'll become more metabolically efficient. So muscle is where it's at. For me, it's not just doing the elliptical, for example.
Yeah.
Yeah, I won't add hardly much to that at all, because that was a great summary. I think the one thing that I would say though is, if you are talking or working with a trainer, depending on the trainer, again, not all are created equally. You want to make sure that your recovery, in my opinion at least, it needs to be about, if you're getting sore for a day and a half, 2 days after you've done something, especially if you've been doing it for a little bit, you may be pushing it too hard. And again, especially for women, consider your cycle, consider where you are, because you're not a male and you can't push it hard all the time. And we have a 24-hour cycle. You have a 28-day fluctuation, and it's a lot more unstable. And so you really have to consider, how am I recovering? Like if I'm inflamed and sore for more than a day and a half, 2 days, I probably pushed it too hard, and I need to scale back and let the muscle building occur in that recovery time. But if you think more is better, more is not always better. Like you have to find that balance of rest and stimulus and pushing yourself in accordance with your cycle, if you're a cycling woman. And there's just a lot of variables there. So if you're working with the trainer, make sure that they understand that as much as you are trying to understand it, so that you guys can work together on that, because that's really important.
I hear you, Dr. Lake, but I do want to say, I do think women have been acculturated to think that they can't lift weights or shouldn't lift weights, or it's not feminine to lift weights. I mean, it's much better than it was.
Oh, you should lift heavy. No, for sure.
Yeah,
I'm not saying that.
I just want to put that out there, that I do think lifting weights is actually really important for women.
No, yeah. I mean, it's this is not an anti-resistance training thing. This is a recovery thing. Like you got to know your body, just make sure you're recovering appropriately. And this goes for males too, but like women are more susceptible to messing up their hormones by doing that.
Yeah, I see that often as well, because they'll take like a Pilates class in the morning, and then they'll go to Orange Theory in the afternoon, and then so some of these, very kind of obsessive and they wonder why they're not getting results, and they're just like taxing out their body. So there is an overtraining component for sure.
Big time.
Yeah, for sure. So we are going to wrap this up. I just want to say that to everybody who's looking at the calendar and is like, oh, it's January and I've got to make these like new big huge changes in life. Click TikTok. It's 2026. Where am I going in life and what am I doing? So you've heard a lot of good information tonight, which is, I think, not to be in such a hurry, not to be such to have such outsized expectations for yourself that you then fail, or you feel doomed to fail because you haven't succeeded in 5 minutes, because we're living in hyper accelerated times. Also, to really try to seek out experts who can help you, people who can give you good information. I'm, as a doctor, right out there front and center saying that a lot of stuff that doctors have told you over the years is flat out wrong, and was incentivized to tell you in the wrong directions. Also, as Dr. Lake confirmed, in an allopathic training model, like classic medical school training, we were absolutely told explicitly and implicitly that nutrition was just irrelevant. You probably haven't heard me say this, Dr. Lake, but I got exactly 1 hour of nutrition training in 4 years of medical school, and it was in the hospital setting, basically for renal dialysis patients, right?
Wow.
That was the sum total.
Watch sodium.
It's just so bizarre when you think about it, except I never thought about it until the last few years. I was like, that's very strange. It's very strange that they just left that out completely.
Yeah.
So I just want to share with you that this is the kind of stuff that we do at GoldCare. We talk about things. We bring you experts. We don't come from any kind of biased perspective. We try to bring you just people who are actually from different perspectives. It's funny. I love how tonight different people come to the same conclusion, though. And I want to thank both of you for sharing your knowledge and expertise and passion for just living healthy lives. And thank you so much. And back to you, Drew.
Yes, Dr. Lake, Kristy, Dr. Gold, thank you so much. Tonight was such an impactful and educational conversation. We covered many great topics. We talked a lot about various metabolic concepts, but I think, like Dr. Lake said, the thing that we really focused on, and I think is really important here, is that we talked about was restoration, restoring trust in your body, restoring clarity around why past efforts and things you've tried haven't worked, restoring hope for people who have done everything that they were told to do and they still feel stuck. Faith matters here because healing was never meant to be mechanical. Scripture tells us that we are fearfully and wonderfully made. That design includes hormones, metabolism, emotions working together, and we want to honor that design instead of fighting it. Restoration does become possible. At GoldCare, these conversations happen every day. That's why we encourage you to schedule your free appointment with our nursing team. And while it's not traditional medical care, it is a great starting point to be heard, to be guided, and to be supported in a better framework for health. Be sure to click the link in the title of tonight's webinar to learn more about GoldCare and how you can schedule that appointment. Thank you for being with us tonight, and we'll see you February 10th for our next town hall, where we will discuss the carnivore diet with expert Sean Baker. God bless you and good night.
Do you feel like the healthcare system is failing you? That's because it is, working exactly as intended to prioritize profits, bureaucracy, and big pharma, while leaving you and your family vulnerable when you need care the most. We understand your frustration. You've been asked to trust a system that feels rushed, impersonal, and biased. You deserve better. That's why we created GoldCare. Here, your values matter, your choices matter, and most importantly, you matter. GoldCare is more than a solution. It's a revolution. Trusted by over 10,000 members nationwide, we've built a system that puts your wellness first. With ethical, independent doctors who work for you, not the system, you'll have access to care that's transparent, trustworthy, and aligned with your values. We understand that stepping away from the familiar can feel daunting, but staying in a system that doesn't truly serve you is even harder. That's why GoldCare offers a healthcare alternative designed to work for you. Whether you're ready to step away from the system entirely or prefer to keep your insurance while seeking the transparent care, ethical doctors, and education you deserve, it's time to stop trusting a system that's failed you. Take control of your health with GoldCare. Join today for just $10 a month and become part of the healthcare revolution. GoldCare, built for you, powered by freedom, trusted by thousands.